Potential Man is a meme format made popular during the generational run of Jujutsu Kaisen slander. This describes a character who has all the potential to be one of the strongest or best characters in their universe, but over and over, they just failed to deliver. Defending this character will always sound like when and if, but never is. There's hundreds of variations of this meme for different media and anime, and in competitive Pokemon, that's no different. With over 1,000 Pokemon out at the time of recording this, some are seemingly given everything but just can't keep up in the metagame. Some are given some of the best stats in the game, some are given amazing abilities, and some giving just about everything. But over and over, they just fail to deliver. The ones that seem like they should be amazing on paper, but in practice, just aren't that good. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Who's that Pokemon?
Mega Beedrill is one of, if not the most min-max Pokemon in history. Absolutely monstrous attack and speed, coupled with one of the best abilities in the game, traded in for extremely low defense, special attack, and HP. Simply looking at the offensive stat spread for this Pokemon, you'd think that its ability to send off attacks with doubled power would let it hold its own in the highest tiers of competitive Pokemon. However, even with some of the best possible stats and ability, it simply fails to deliver in every metagame it exists in. Its base 40 defense coupled with 65 HP means basically any physical attack kills it. Some Pokemon, namely Kartana and Mega Alakazam, have managed to overcome this weakness, but Mega Beedrill's horrendous typing and move pool means it just can't achieve the KOs needed to justify its frailty. The first glaring weakness is its type. Bug Poison is a horrendous offensive stab combination, resisted by 3 good defensive typings, which means its adaptability is basically nullified if it goes against any Pokemon that resists it. In Gen 7, common defensive walls like Ferrothorn, Gliscor, and the condemned Landorus Therian can shrug off its attacks and nuke it right back, even with no attack investment. And, to rub salt on the wound, Mega Beedrill doesn't get a single stab move above 80 base power. The coveted offensive moves, Megahorn and Gunk Shot, that could offset Bug Poison's horrendous offensive presence isn't afforded to Mega Beedrill, forcing it to run the extremely average Poison Jab and U-turn. Beedrill, however, does get access to the setup move Swords Dance and the niche snowball move of Fell Stinger. However, due to its terrible defenses, it often doesn't get the chance to set up even on passive defensive Pokemon, and is instead KO'd before it gets the chance to snowball. Its UU presence in Gen 7 and National decks is simply because of how cool it is, and the fun of using Fell Stinger. Even in UU, it's hard to justify using it over the powerful Megas Aerodactyl and Altaria. Game Freak did everything they could to make Beedrill good with its Mega, but it simply almost always still falls flat. Still, it's one of the only Pokemon in existence that has usage simply because of how cool it is.
Who's that Pokemon?
The legendary dragon and god of truth Reshiram is the box legendary of Pokemon Black. With a 680 base stat total and an amazing typing, ability, and powerful signature move, it seems to hold up to the legends which state it can burn the world up with flames from its tail. In practice, however, it falls flat in almost every sense of the term. It's doomed to Ubers simply due to having legendary stats, but in the Ubers tier, its presence is completely non-existent. Even in Ubers UU, the tier created for lower class Ubers Pokemon, it's less viable than Pokemon like Sinistcha, Cyclizar, and even Smeargle. The first issue with Reshiram lies in its speed stat. While 90 base speed is not bad by any means, in a tier run by fast offensive threats like Koraidon and Zacian Crown, having a bad speed stat means you'll be taking nukes like a boosted Scale Shot or Draco Meteor before you even get the chance to move. Even running a Choice Scarf isn't viable because you lose access to the heavy duty boots which prevent taking a fourth of your HP every time you switch in. Reshiram's second problem is its competition. In Gen 6 and 7, the undeniable best Pokemon is Primal Groudon, a monster with better typing, better bulk, and an ability that blocks any water moves while boosting its fire moves at the same time. In Gen 9, you have Koraidon, and with its insane Orichalcum Pulse ability, it's basically a fire dragon type of its own. Both of these Pokemon overshadow Reshiram in every sense, so in a tier filled with monsters, why try and add a redundant, weaker Pokemon?
Who's that Pokemon?
If you were around when the DLCs came out for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you'll remember the hype around Iron Boulder. Unheard Of was a fast, powerful rock type with 100% accuracy rock type move. Along with the famously overpowered Quark Drive ability, this Pokemon had everything it needed to become a monster in the OU format. Then it fell to UU, got quick banned, has been stuck in UUBL purgatory ever since. So what exactly happened? The biggest problem with Iron Boulder is it has a whopping 7 weaknesses. In a metagame like Scarlet and Violet OU that's so heavily power crept that Darkrai and Zamazenta are legal, something as frail and weak as Iron Boulder just fails to provide any value to the team. It's not just a number of weaknesses though. Iron Boulder is weak to not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 5 commonly used priority moves. The 2 most detrimental are King Gambit's Sucker Punch and Rillaboom's Grassy Glide, which both kill it unboosted. For a Pokemon that relies on its speed and power, being so weak to priority moves is like a death sentence. You either need to play around them by having priority, or waste your singular Terra on Iron Boulder, which is really hard to justify doing. Secondly, Iron Boulder is just terrible into the Scarlet and Violet metagame. Of the top Pokemon in the meta, Iron Boulder is hard countered or resisted by a whopping 6 out of 11 of them. Even in its own archetype, there's just no reason to use it when it's countered so heavily by so many Pokemon you'll see in the average match. Obviously, it still does have its uses. It was much too good for the UU metagame, and at OU, it still has some viability as a quick late game sweeper on hyper-offensive teams. Overall though, Iron Boulder is a perfect example of a potential Mon. Had seemingly everything it needed to prosper, but just fell flat over and over.
Who's that Pokemon?
In the lore, Hoopa Unbound is nearly a god. In its own movie, it beat multiple legendaries without breaking a sweat, including titans which shaped the world and destroyed continents. Its base stats in total rival box art legendaries, and even with the insane power creep of Scarlet and Violet, it still has some of the highest attacks in the game. With an unheard of combination of base 170 special attack and 160 attack, it should demolish anything it goes against, right? Well, the short answer is no. Similar to Iron Boulder, it's stuck in UUBL purgatory and only sees minimal usage in the OU tier. It's considered a niche pick with very little viability, though it can still work occasionally on the right team. So how did that happen? How did a Pokemon with a stat spread like that manage to fall so low?
It returned to its Pokeball. What was that?
It was a move called U-turn.
That's awesome!
One of the best moves in the game is a physical bug move which allows you to switch out after using it. Coincidentally, Hoopa Unbound is 4 times weak to the bug type and has an abysmal physical defense stat. A Rabombi can kill it using U-turn, and without a form of reliable recovery or defensive ability, it's very hard to even get Hoopa Unbound on the field. Additionally, it has an extremely awkward base 80 speed stat. In competitive Pokemon, there's something called speed tiers which shows general cutoffs for speed that's important in each metagame. However, with 80 speed, Hoopa Unbound is in a strange position where it's not fast enough to outspeed anything, but also not slow enough to consistently use on a Trick Room team. It's stuck right in the middle, and with such a glaring weakness to U-turn and other physical attacks without recovery, it tends to be a sitting duck in games where it can even find a place on the field. However, on the offensive side, Hoopa Unbound has a niche as a mixed attacker. Not much in the game can take a combination of stab, knockoff, and psychic, along with coverage, so in the games where you can manage to get it in without dying, it can be a very powerful wall breaker. However, a niche like this just doesn't fit a beast like Hoopa Unbound. There's some more Pokemon I wanted to include in this video, but I just didn't get the chance to. I think these 4 Pokemon embody the spirit of potential Mons perfectly, but obviously, not everything is about competitive viability. In the words of Karen, strong and weak Pokemon is the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. But in this case, you should probably expect to lose. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This is my first video, I had a ton of fun making it, and I have plans for more videos. If you like competitive Pokemon and want to see more, please subscribe. Peace out!